in squeezing the epoxy out, a lot of times you have some residual epoxy ooze out of the weave, which is good. It means you have sufficient epoxy on the inside to, not only stick it together, but it gives it some structural integrity as well. But it's a bunch of rough edges, and it makes it easier when you color them, and easier when you put your 2-ton slow cure epoxy as your top coat over it, if you get rid of some of those rough edges. And I'll just take a nail file and just, not a lot of sand, and just to kind of get rid of those little dinkies on there, those little epoxy dinkies. And if your weave opened up or you don't like the shape, you can take your scissors, and there's a little indent. I want to cut that off a little bit, like that. You don't want to cut too much of your spoon up, because that's going to open up your weave, and it'll probably not last as long. There you go. Alright, after you've done a bunch of them, it's time to color them. I use Sharpies and Marks a Lot brand permanent markers. Let's do the simplest one first. I use my Regal Vice head to clamp and hold the spoon in place. And for my golden red, I just color half the back with a little red. As you can see, the Sharpie's kind of translucent, and you still get a shine, you get like a red shine on there. For the spoons with a plain bottom like this golden will be, I'll put my signature Eat Me with a fine tip Sharpie. I'll write on the bottom. Just a little message to the fish. Ensure the fly works. I don't know if you can see that or not. So there we go for one. I'm going to color this one. This is my craw pepper. Some people call it pumpkin seed. And you can use any color base, gold. For the brown one, I like to either use a gold or this copper base. And I'll take the brown Marks a Lot and just tint the whole thing this brown color. You have to kind of turn your marker to get into some of the little cupped areas. We call it craw pepper or pumpkin seed because we're going to put some black dots on it with the regular Sharpie. Not tiny dots and not really huge dots. About the size of the hook eye. I usually put one row and then come back with the second row and place them in between where the other one was. Like that. I don't know if you can see that or not. We'll flip it over and do the same thing on the underside. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to do a minnow type pattern on a spoon. I use a vise to hold a spoon with, so I don't get marker all over my hand. This is going to be my blue and black back shad. Use a blue Sharpie to draw a line on what I'm going to call the back of the spoon on this side, and also on the inside. Use a little black on top of the blue, over the top of the blue, making sure to color the edge so the silver mylar doesn't shine through. That's for the belly. And the blue and black stripes just like that would work fine. However, I like blending them a little bit. I use a Q-tip and dip it in alcohol and rub it across the line where the black and the blue meet, and across the blue to kind of blend it. And I'll blend that solid blue line on the back too. Kind of dry some of the excess epoxy up. I'll dry some of the excess alcohol off. Then I'll add a false eye. If you rub too much of the black off, you can come back and touch it up, the top edge, a little bit. Okay. You can add a finishing touch by putting a stick-on eye to it. You notice that this surface isn't exactly flat and smooth. There's a little hump on each side from where the hook shank is. So what I like doing is taking the eye, the stick-on eye between my fingers and kind of folding it and rolling it. I don't fold it and stick it together, of course, but I kind of pinch it together to where it's almost stuck together and roll it a little bit so it has a little curvature to it. Then I'll, like that. So you can see that little curve, and then just stick it right on the top and stick it down like that. And then just squeeze them. Make sure they stuck down, and then just to ensure they stay stuck until you have epoxy them, take a little CA glue and apply on there. Might even dab a little off of there. There you go. You want to tie off your Weedguard. I like using a red thread. Stick the Weedguard up through the hook eye. Place 1, 2, 3 wraps just to hold it in place while you adjust your Weedguard. You want the space between the Weedguard wants to pass below the hook about the distance of half the hook shank. You just adjust it like so. And then take your thread up to the front, bend your tag end over, secure it with 4 or 5 wraps, and then trim the tag end off. It could be longer than what the thread wraps are going to be because your epoxy will cover that up. And then go ahead and pull your Weedguard up to the front so it has a good shape when you go epoxy it. I like pulling it forward like this just to make sure it clears the spoon body so you don't get epoxy all over it. Kind of like that. Alright, we're ready to put the 2-ton clear coat on the outside.